of the public who may have joined us in any of the NESA platforms. We have a meeting that is fairly short by our standards, right? So we have a meeting that is scheduled to run between 9 and 12. We should be able to finish before that, assuming that we are conservative with the time to allow the members of the public that are joining to be able to stay the course. I'd like to thank you. The agenda that sits before us, as indicated, we've got 6 items that are supposed to be discussed in an open meeting. Those are our regulatory reports. And then, of course, we've got internal governance reports that we're going to deal with. But members, with a show of hands, can we adopt the agenda as presented or as advertised by show of hands? Thank you, Mr. Popula. Thank you, Mr. Nkiza. Thank you, Madam Spear. Thank you, Madam Aseti, and thank you, Advocate Sithole. The full house. Thank you, members. So with that, the item that we are discussing, and we'd like to ask members and members of management and staff who are attending this or who have access to these documents, who might have an interest that to actually fill in the declaration of interest forms to indicate if there is interest, to indicate what interest there might be, even if it's not, just to so indicate and send the forms through to the Secretariat as it is customary. However, members, I'm not sure if anybody wants to, on this platform, to indicate verbally if there is a matter that which is on the agenda that they may have an interest in. By show of hands. None. Thank you, members. So we move off that. So if you can just please complete the forms and send them to Mr. Mabunda for the record. We can then move straight to agenda item number 5. Mr. Shozi.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning to you. Good morning to the members and colleagues, members of the public. Chair, the first item on the agenda is a request for an exemption for those plants that are not complying with the provisions of the Renewable Energy Grid Code. Mr. Maluleke will take the members through, assuming that the submission has been read, just highlighting the key issues around the non-compliances that have been picked up by the applicants. Over to you, Mr. Maluleke.
Thank you, Mr. Shozi. Good morning, Chairperson, members, and the colleagues. The purpose of my submission today is that the purpose of this submission is to request the Electricity Subcommittee to approve temporary exemption for Agnes Solar PV, Agnes Wind Farm, and Excelsior Wind Farm from complying with the Clause 9, Section 4 and Clause 9, Section 8 of the RPP Grid Code. And on the next one, on page 2, the Electricity Subcommittee is duly delegated as per Clause 1.5 of the Delegation Matrix of 26 October 2023 to approve applications from the ESI requiring exemptions to the South African Grid Code. The motivation of this application is that the applications listed on Table 2, which are Agnes Wind Farm, Agnes Solar PV, and Excelsior Wind Farm, have requested a temporary exemption to power quality requirements and seeking approval from the energy regulator. And the reasons for non-compliance, amongst others, is that the plant was unable to demonstrate compliance on the 7th, 11th, and 13th current ammonic emissions. And that also on Excelsior, it was also not able to comply on the 2nd, the 4th, and the 6th ammonics, but the plant has installed an active ammonic filter. However, still it doesn't comply. So it's busy working on mitigation measures to ensure that it complies and it resolves the matter within the requested dates. And on the technical risk associated with the exemptions is that the exemption of power quality have to do with the impact of that a poor quality of supply has on both the licensee and the customer. Assets those include reduced equipment life, malfunction, and potential damage. The GCAC has recommended the applications for approval to the energy regulator with conditions that the exemptions do not affect the NSP and other customers on the network. On section 6.3 for NERSA analysis on page 8, Appendix 13 of the RPP code guides the industry on the process to follow for power quality assessments. It also explicitly states that should the NSP experience a violation of the power quality levels due to RPP connection, the NSP must request that the RPP reduce its output in order to manage the power quality levels within compatible levels. And as a mitigation measure to the risk identified above, the GCAC included this requirement as part of the conditions for exemption to ensure that the RPP does not negatively impact the network and other users as a result of this exemption. Under recommendation on page 10, it is recommended that Electricity Subcommittee approve the temporary exemptions of the application as outlined on Table 4 for the applicants, which are Agnes Wind, Agnes Solar PV, and Excelsior Wind Farm. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Maduleke. All right, members, you've got the submission before us. Any questions, comments, areas of improvements? Show of hands, members. Mr. Mkhize.
Thanks, Chairperson, and thanks to the presenter. I've just got two or three questions. One is on Table 2. Why is the extension requested after expiry dates? And also that existing exemption, is it not linked to the date on the next table? Because like I note that like for Excelsior Wind Farm, you've got the date being 15 January in the next table, which is actually the due date for compliance testing being given as the 15th of January 2024. So that is one thing. And then secondly, on the table, that table, I think it should be numbered as Table 3, because we must have the table title and numbering. And then on the one for Kaknas Wind Farm, in terms of remedial action, you're saying that once the active harmonic filter is installed and operational, the Kaknas Wind Farm's current harmonics emissions at the point of connection will be reassessed, right? And you continue with that sentence. But the thing is that I think even here, we should then be indicating the planned date for the filter installation, right? And then also on the Genes solar PV, I think when one looks at the second table, the second bullet on the remedial action, I think we seem to be lacking foresight in terms of when these are going to be implemented, so that we avoid a situation where you've got to then apply for this extension. And just the last comment is on the extension itself, that shouldn't it be worrying us that we are extending and therefore not having maybe given enough time for remedial action to be fully implemented. And then lastly, under deliberations, under 6.1.1, I would just like to know that is the risk not getting bigger, or the challenge getting bigger as more renewable power projects are connected? You know, if you've got these problems of harmonics is it not impacted upon by the numbers that then interconnect? I just wanted to get a feel as to these extensions, having them, allowed, or the exemptions, in fact, is it not putting any risk as more RPPs are brought in? Just to have a feel of that. That is all from my side. But I do support the granting, but it's just to clean up the process going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Madam Aseti, I saw you raise your hand, but you lowered it. I assume that you've been covered.
I'm covered, Chairperson. Thank you.
No, thank you. There are no further hands, so can I hand over back to you, Mr. Modolege? Where is enhancements? Let's note the enhancement and acknowledge it, but let's not waste too much time responding to that. If you can respond to the other questions, please.
Okay. No, thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, I've noted the comments. Yeah, on the days or on when the RPPs come for extensions, unfortunately, somehow we do not have control on that, because we wait for them to come to GCAC and present their issues and request the exemptions with those dates, because we don't really go to them and inform them that your exemption is expired, and then therefore you need to come to GCAC and apply for an exemption. We wait for them to come to us with the applications. And then on the risk, I think, yes, there might be a risk, but with the mitigations, I believe that they are sufficient, because the risk control on that, should there be issues of harmonics, the control measures as indicated, I believe somehow they are sufficient to not compromise the network itself. But I do believe, yes, the more the connections, the more the risk on harmonics, because each RPP might emit some harmonics into the system, which need to control, not to somehow impact on the system. Thank you, Chairperson. Unless I've missed another question, I think I've answered. Thanks.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Kalagani, you want to add? So maybe maybe add, and then we'll actually come back to you, Mr. Mkhize. Maybe the follow-up might be addressed by Mr. Kalagani.
Yes. Continue, okay. Well, thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues and the members. So I just wanted to indicate that in terms of some of the expiry dates, particularly for power quality, one of the challenges that we've been having is that with power quality, the applicants, they go and do an assessment on their side and do the measurements, and from the measurements they then submit to the NSP, who's supposed to do an evaluation and indicate if they actually do meet the apportioned limits or not. So the challenge that we've been having is that you'd find that the applicant has asked for an exemption so that they can do a power quality assessment, but the exemption in the process expires as they are waiting for feedback to receive feedback from the NSP. So that's one of the challenges, but I do acknowledge that it's something that we may need to also address with the NSPs on our side. And in terms of I think Mr. Mkhize has indicated that it seems like we don't have sight of some of the activities on the plan when they indicate how they will mitigate the challenges. They do actually submit project plans. It's just an omission on our side. With the next submissions, we'll make sure that we indicate the actual plan that indicates the timelines on which each activity will take place. And also on the dates, I think on the 15th of January, for that one, it may, in terms of when will the exemption expire, I think it's a mistake on that one, because on that plan that is on number 3, it doesn't have an existing exemption on power quality. So we will make that correction in terms of that 15th January 2024. Thank you, Chairperson. I will stop there.
Thank you. And considering that all of the enhancements will be effected, correct, in the numbering of tables and whatever. Mr. Mkhize, follow up?
Yes.
Yes, thanks. I don't want to delay the meeting, but really, to have an extension and have a due date and not comply with the due date, and then life goes on, and then there's an application put well after that due date, resulting in us having to deal with that. We're more like rubber stamping then. You can't have that with impunity. There should be some way of following up in terms of saying where you are, or at least in the submission to account why the due date was not adhered to. Otherwise, why embark on this process? So I'm saying that there should be at least a tighter governance over this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Noted. And I think colleagues would agree with that. Thank you. Having no further comments that I see, no further hands, can I then take the members to the recommendation? Part of it has been read onto the record, which is to recommend that the ELS approve the exemption. The temporary exemption applications that are outlined in Table 4. And that Table 4, as indicated, includes Kansas, Cankness Wind Farm, Achenes Solar PV, Excelsior Wind Farm, and the dates are indicated in the table. And that also, secondly, that we approve the conditions for these temporary exemptions, which are listed from A to C. Maybe just to read them into the record, that the RPP generator must demonstrate through testing and otherwise to the satisfaction of the systems operator NSP and the NSP, the RPP's current capability in relation to the exempted code requirements, and provide assurance that this capability will be maintained for the duration of the exemption period. And B, should the RPP's generator non-compliance to the code requirements necessitate the systems operator or the NSP to curtail or disconnect the RPP, no deemed energy payments shall be claimed for the output that was curtailed or disconnected. And then lastly, that the RPP generator must submit quarterly reports to NERSA and the Grid Code Secretariat on progress made to achieve the compliance. Reports shall be submitted to the NERSA Grid Code team at nersa.org.za and GCM at escom.co.za. Mr. Mkhize, by the way, your hand, I assume it's a lingering hand? Or are you voting?
The lingering one, I support.
You support. Okay, members, can I put this, by show of hands, can you support? Can you show support of the recommendation? Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Advocate Tola. Thank you, Mr. Bukula. Thank you, Madam Spear. And thank you, Mr. Mkhize, as well, as you indicated. So, Mr. Maluleke, Mr. Shozi, you've got your decision. If we can then move on to item number 6, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. This one again presented by Mr. Maluleke. We've got those plans that are seeking exemption on they are unable to comply with the provision of Appendix 9, which is the 6-yearly routine test. Mr. Maluleke, take it as read and highlight the key issues why the plans are not able to comply with that requirement.
Thank you. And please highlight only the key issues, especially issues that we may not have mentioned in the previous submission. Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay. No, thank you. Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning once again. Again, the purpose of this submission is to request the electricity temporary exemption for Bronco Sprayed Biogas, Geospan PV Plant, Gibson Bay Wind Farm, Gouda Wind Farm, Lopriska PV Plant, and Cookhouse Wind Farm from complying with Appendix 9 of the RPP Grid Code version 3.1 of January 2022. And again, the delegation of authority remains the same as mentioned on the previous submission. The motivation for these ones, the applications are which are due for their 6-year routine testing, and currently they do until the date as stipulated on Table 2. There are reasons for non-compliance amongst other issues is that them, they are undergoing an expansion project, which, because of their major modification outlined on clause 3, section 6 of the RPP code, they were unable to complete their routine tests. And then others, they went through turbine generator failure due to blade damage. And there is also one which the transformer which caught fire and they lost their transformer, which contributed to the delay in the routine testing. And they are busy addressing those issues. And then on the technical risks, the GCAC has interrogated these applicants for temporary exemptions and recommended them for the energy regulator on premise that they will not compromise the objectives of the code of practice and integrity of the national grid. 9, NERSA analysis. The grid code is a regulatory tool that is used by NERSA to enforce the compliance of licenses after undertaking the necessary grid integrity assessment to protect the network and the safety of personnel. The mitigation measures have also been put into place to ensure that granting the temporary exemption does not lead to unintended regulatory risks. Therefore, on recommendations on page 10, it is recommended that they approve the temporary exemption of the 6 applicants as outlined on table.
Your network connection, Mr. Malulaga, is not great. You keep coming in and out, but I think you've made, you presented the report, and I assume that you've noted the comments made by members on the first one, those that are similar to this one, and you take those into account. If I can just step off you, please make sure that your connection is better. Members, you've got the presentation, the submission before you. Any questions, comments, areas of improvement that you are further to those that were identified by Mr. Mkhize earlier? Any others? Show of hands. Any additional points? I see no hands. That being the case, can I then take you to the recommendation, members? Taking into account, Mr. Malulaga, that although there may not have been specific comments on this, any of the issues that were raised by members previously, including the issue of making sure that people account, that if they are given we need to have a process that if somebody is actually therefore not meeting the condition of their license, then there must be some kind of accountability that is imposed on them. So please note that, Mr. Shozi, that's in fact to you, that's your team. Thank you, members. Take you to paragraph 14 of the submission, which is on page 10 of 11. And I'll just perhaps, because he didn't get to actually read them into the record, I'll read them. It is recommended that the ELS approve the temporary exemptions of the 6 applicants as outlined in table 4 below. And these are Bronkhorstspruit, a biogas plant. That's the first one. The second one is Griefspan, sorry, PV plant. The next one being Gibson Bay Wind Farm. Next one being Gouda Wind Farm. And the second last one, Mulilo Prieska PV plant. And the last one being Cookhouse Wind Farm. And of course, under the same conditions that were imposed on the previous one, which is it's from A to C. They are the same, so I will not necessarily read them into the record. By show of hands, members, can we approve that recommendation? Mr. Mkhize, thank you, Madam Spear. Thank you, Mr. Pukula. Thank you, Madam Massetti. Thank you, Advocate Sitole, full house. Mr. Shozi, you've got your decision. If we can then move on to item number 8, please.
Thank you, Chair. On this one, Chair, before we introduce the item, probably I'd like to apologize on behalf of the team. I don't know where the attachment that was supposed to have been on this document got lost. We realized yesterday late that the actual application, which was meant to be an attachment to the submission, was not in the pack. When we're trying to remedy that situation, the colleagues by error, they also attached the application for 2021-2022 instead of 2022-2023. But the figures on the submissions themselves, they are correct. They are for the correct application. So we're just highlighting that so that it's when we do go out for publication, the actual application from ESCOM will be the one that will be published, not the one that is on the current pack for members. We just want to acknowledge that administrative error that has just happened. Having said that, Chairperson, I would like to invite Mr. Takeni to present the submission. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Mr. Shozi, and thanks, Chairperson, and good morning to the members and the members of the public. So this is the application from ESCOM, which we are requesting the approval for it to be published. It is for the financial year 2022-2023. And we're also requesting for the noting of the timelines to process the application, and also for the ER to note the publication once the ELS is approved. We had received this application on 24th of January this year, 2024. We analyzed the application for it to comply with the methodology, and we confirmed the compliance. The team confirmed after engagement with ESCOM compliance with the methodology and completeness of the application on the 8th of March. In this application, Chairperson, ESCOM is requesting for an amount of about 9 billion in its favor to be recovered as an RCA amount. And the drivers of this amount are mainly the primary energy, international purchase, and depreciation line items. So we are requesting that the approval be granted for the application to be published by the 22nd of April 2024 for stakeholder to provide written comments. And the comments will be until the 31st of May 2024. And we also would like to apologize. We had indicated 27th of July as a closing date. It's supposed to be 31st of May. We anticipate the entire process to unfold until the 29th of October 2024. That is the date where we anticipate the energy regulator to make a decision on this application. Chairperson, the recommendations are on page 7, where we are recommending for the ELS to approve the publication of the application for 2022-23, and it also to note the proposed timelines and to recommend for the noting of the publication by the energy regulator. And once more, Chairperson, we apologize for the wrong attachment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Takeni. Members, you've got the document before us for comments. It's a request to publish the ESCOM application for comment for stakeholder comments, and we are asked to note the timelines and then to also recommend to the ER. Members, by show of hands, I see Mr. Mkize. Mr. Mkize, if you can go ahead, sir.
Thanks. I think it would help. Thanks for the presentation. On page 5 of 14, you've got, as well as on the schedule itself, you've got a publication that is on the date of the 22nd. Is it not possible to publish earlier, since this committee approves and ER notes, just to be economic with time? And on the under 6.4, is expenditure not the key issue here, looking at this contribution? And then on the timetable itself, I note that the dates provided only, we say that the main driver is for the proposed timeline is public interest in the information contained in the RCAs and the capacity of NAFSA to complete its analysis. Are there no other time pressures due to having to incorporate these RCAs in any form of price determination throughout the system that maybe needs highlighting? Just want to check on that. And I think with reference to, I think somewhere you had written that the challenges are, I think I've just lost that comment on my side, but we're talking of IPPs being contributing to the cost. And I think if you can just rephrase that and talk to the purchases from IPPs, just to put electricity purchases from IPPs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Any further comments, members? Show of hands. There being none, can I hand over back to you, Mr. Ntaken?
Thanks, Chairperson. Yes, publishing earlier is possible. We just put the date of the 22nd in case there is maybe some further work that might emanate from this meeting, but we are able to publish much earlier than the 22nd of April, and we will be able to do that. Thanks. And then in terms of the expenditure being contributor, what we looked, if you look at the table that table 2, we have seen that what expenditure is contributing in terms of the total quantum is not a lot when you compare it to primary energy and purchases from the IPPs, as you have indicated. So the expenditure is not one of the major drivers this time around. If you can see just the second line item from the return. And then on the question of other time pressures, there isn't other time pressures because these RCAs, we've got standing decisions that they must be implemented in 2-year lags. So there's no pressure to include this RCA in the coming price determination. And the contribution by the IPPs, I think we will take the guidance you provided that it is indeed purchases from the IPPs. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Ntaken. Mr. Mkhize, are you covered?
Yes, I'm covered. And then the timelines in terms of the project plan will be adjusted accordingly then as an earlier date of publication is effected. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. That's an enhancement, Mr. Ntaken. With that having been, the comments having been considered, members, if I can then take you to the recommendations, which are on page 7 of 14. Members, with all of the corrections that will be made when this consultation paper is published, the correct application, ESCOM application, would be attached, and all of the apologies that were made by Mr. Shozi in the beginning. So members, the recommendation is that it is recommended that the ELS approves the publication of the ESCOM MYPDRCA application for the financial year 2022-23, and that it notes the proposed timelines, including the amendments or the enhancements that have been indicated by Mr. Mkhize, outlining the consultation and the analysis process of the application. And then thirdly, that the ELS recommends the noting of the publication to the ER. By show of hands, members, if we can approve those recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. Thank you, Mr. Pokula. Thank you, Madam Spear. Thank you, Madam Massetti. And thank you, Advocate Sitole. Full house. Thank you. You've got your decision, Mr. Shozi. Can we move on to item number 8? Mr. Shozi, back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the submission, it's a continuation of engagement on the MYPD rules that were approved by the ER in December 2023. Chair, we've engaged on the subject matter in terms of how the rules will be implemented going forward. So based on the discussion happened at the ER, the ELS team is here to the ELS subcommittee to present this submission to highlight the way forward that you are proposing in terms of the implementing the rules as approved by the regulator. But I will call upon Mr. Bear to take the members through how we have arrived at this recommended plan of taking the rules forward. Mr. Bear, over to you.
Good morning, members, colleagues, Chairperson. Please indicate if there's any problems with my audio. With the storms, I've been having a bit of a connection issue. So let me jump straight in. I wish to thank the members for the opportunity to present the submission and take it as read beyond highlighting a few aspects for the members' convenience. A number of regulatory issues were raised by regulator members which needed consideration and which demanded that the matter be sent back to the ELS for further discussions. These issues are considered in the submission, with the following being the highlights of the analysis. Firstly, the rule is aligned with the pricing policy and the Electricity Regulation Act, and that can be verified in Annexure H. It's important at this point to mention that Annexure H was omitted from the list of annexures, but is correct in terms of its reference within the submission. And apologies for that. The rule is also aligned with the current regulatory instruments, namely the license and its licenses and their attendant conditions. That can be seen in Annexure B. The analysis of the attached ESCOM generation, transmission and distribution licenses, as well as the NTSA transmission license and the municipal distribution licenses, show alignment to the rules and allow for the immediate determination of tariffs using the rule. But of course, noting that as with any regulatory and economic regulation shift, this will need to be done in an incremental manner. It is recognized that despite the readiness of the rule to be implemented, the readiness of stakeholders, including licensees, may need additional support to prepare for the implementation of the rule. It is envisaged, as outlined in the work plan provided to ELS in February, that the rule will be incrementally implemented over the next 2 years. It is for this reason that the recommendation to continue with the implementation of the rule and the related stakeholder engagement that was initiated in January 2024 is continued. In parallel, as the legal process unfolds with the outputs that will be used to enhance the rule that have arisen from the ER process, where appropriate, and should assist with the rule's implementation through the enhancements that should come through that process. Consequently, it is recommended, as under section 14 and 14.1 in the submission, that the Electricity Subcommittee notes the submission and the additional evidence supporting the implementation of the electricity pricing rule approved on the 14th of December 2023, and recommends to the energy regulator, to endorse the implementation of the rule, the attendant stakeholder consultation, and to endorse the continuation of the stakeholder engagement initiated in January 2024, and finally directs the RSU and the LAS to expedite the parallel process of obtaining a legal and independent economist opinion on the rule alignment with the prevailing and future policy and regulatory environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pai. Members, you've got the submission before us. Any questions, comments, enhancements by show of hands? Mr. Chokwe, guidance?
Chairperson, good morning. We see the submission, Chairperson, but maybe we don't follow in the sense that I think the decision of the ER on this issue was that RSU actually working with LAS, we consult SC and come back to this committee, and maybe matching orders and clear instruction will be coming from there. We don't know whether this submission actually it's along those lines or it's actually on the other side, but it appears that when it talks of there'll be parallel issues going forward, we didn't think it should have been in that fashion. We thought the matching orders will be coming from the senior council side, but maybe we might have missed it, Chairperson. We are here to, maybe to be guided. Thanks, Chairperson.
Okay. All right. Before I respond to that, I thought maybe I'll just still open. I'm not sure if members would actually have additional comments or views, or they would rather us we actually deal with this issue first. Mr. Chokwe, from where we're sitting, is that what you are saying is that there was a suspension of a particular process subject to, and this matter was taken into an in-committee. And from what we'd understood was that this then became the decision of the last ER in committee was that this matter is a regulatory matter and needed to be dealt as such as a regulatory matter. Yes, there are other issues in terms of ensuring alignment and all of the other things that were done. But in terms of what the way we had read the actual advice, it wasn't in that kind of sequence. But if you think that that was supposed to be the sequence that we then need to then wait for, the senior counsel and the appointment of the independent economist. I would like to just flag one thing: the risks that it brings to the organization. That in the event that the assumption is that perhaps either the SC disagrees with the analysis done by the team in terms of the alignment of the existing alignment, or that the SC just perhaps comes up with any enhancements. Is that even if that particular case, if that exists, and we only get this opinion in May, it means that the processes would have stalled since January until May. It brings major risk to the organization. However, if in respect of ER, if that risk is acceptable to ER, I think it would have been flagged, and then the ER would actually accept that risk that comes with that. So I don't know, Mr. Chokwe. From where I'm sitting is that the in-committee decision for me did not sequence it in that way. It was more that this needed to be done, but at the same time, this is a regulatory matter that needs to come back to ELS for deliberation, and hence it is here. Mr. Ntanzi.
Chair, thanks, and good morning, members and colleagues. Yeah, Chair, the articulation by Mr. Chokwe is correct in terms of the minutes of the in-committee of the ER of 23 February. This was a conditional approval to say the regulator support unit assisted by LAS will have to secure senior legal counsel's opinion on this matter. Then once that has been received, a way forward will then be provided by the ER. So my concern from the governance perspective, Chair, is that maybe what is before the ELS may be at variance with that ER decision, which may pose a challenge. Hence, Mr. Chokwe is raising this as an issue, and I think it needs to be resolved. Thank you, Chair.
All right, we actually stand guided by yourselves, Mr. RSU. Again, unfortunately, because as you know, that was the actual recording was requested of the latest decision, not of the 24th. Sorry, not of the February one, but in terms of the March decision. That has been requested, and it is still to come. but we actually stand guided by ourselves. But the analysis that has been done, it is there. It becomes also an input into that SC process. Unless, of course, you reckon that the analysis itself is it wasn't supposed to be performed. But we actually stand guided by ourselves, Mr. Ntanzi. Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, and may I apologize in advance for the background noise. Chairperson, in terms of the decision taken by the energy regulator on the 28th of March, it was acknowledged that the matters, the governance issues, were the issues that were sent to the in-committee. And when the preliminary brief was provided by RSU and legal in that in-committee meeting, it was then advised by RSU, given the substantive nature of the response coming from yourself, Chairperson, to say that the members did not have the matter written before them in order to adequately apply themselves. Hence, it was referred to the ELS. What ideally should be serving before the ELS today is the written substantive information, which you were ready to share with the in-committee, and then that bit together with the legal opinion that would then form a recommendation that will come to the energy regulator. That's all I have to include in terms of the decision of the energy regulator of the 28th of March. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Madam. I think taking into account the issues raised by yourself, Mr. Ntanzi and Mr. Chokwe, perhaps what we could do is actually change the actual recommendation to the ELS, that this provides that analysis. It will stand differently to how it was going to be presented verbally. It is more one that is forward-looking rather than it is, because intentionally, initially, the input that was going to be made at the ELS and committee was in response to Annexure A. However, in terms of analyzing the input that was going to be made in terms of the response provided in terms of Annexure A, then a further analysis is what is covered under Annexure B, which provides all of the actual responses. For instance, the issue that was raised, the primary issue was about whether, do we regulate ESCOM? Do we actually have an ESCOM license? And clearly, in terms of that analysis, it's quite clear that we don't have that. In fact, we actually regulate certain activities that are undertaken by all of the licensees as stipulated there, and that the licenses stipulate certain things. So what we can then, my request, therefore, would that be to then say the input that was going to be made by the chairperson of the, or let me put it by the FTRM electricity at the ER in committee has been analyzed and is provided under all of those annexes. So then, if the recommendation from RSU is that before we go back to ER, then we then await inputs from the process from the legal opinion process, that can be taken. However, my request is that can that please be expedited, because there are lots of processes that are awaiting such inputs, including the stakeholder engagement processes that have since been suspended. That we really plead that in the original proposal was that this would be done in May, for instance. This would go back to ER in May. I think let's be cognizant of all of the dependencies, colleagues, that if we were to wait for the SC process to only yield some output end of May, we would have delayed. If we can't go down this particular path, we would have delayed work in terms of developing an alternative path. So that's going to be my request, that process be expedited. Mr. Pukul.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to find out from you. You're saying that it will be done at the end of May. Is that the feedback that RSU, who's leading this, has given you? Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, unfortunately, yes, it says these options would be expressed in April 2024 or May 2024 meeting of the ER. That's at the bottom of Annexure A, and that was verbally expressed as well. Mr. Mkhize?
Yeah, I don't understand some of the things here because the way it's crafted, if you look at 6.10.2, where it talks of the need to, or the imperative to expedite getting the legal opinion to the recommendations, it becomes, for me, there's some kind of a disjuncture there. So I'm not so sure because we've discussed this in the rest of the issues. It will actually be more of governance issues, I should think, if one looks at the rule other than that in terms of the timing and all of those things. And if possible, possible deliberation of that in a closed governance meeting. Just asking.
Okay, I know too, Mr. Pokola, and thank you, Mr. Mkhize, because I must admit, when we started, I was kind of hoping that members would then raise, maybe I should have also raised this, that in an open meeting we'll discuss only matters that are actually in the open, being a governance matter, but sort of being a regulatory matter. But for any matter that might be a governance-related matter, those matters should be discussed in a closed meeting. So that's what I was hoping would be able to actually separate, so that as questions are posed, we will then select those questions that actually can be discussed in an open meeting for the benefit of the stakeholders, from the matters that are governance related that should be discussed in a closed meeting. Mr. Pokola.
Thank you, Chair. I think RSU is here to answer, because my understanding is that the legal opinion is going to serve in the April meeting of the energy regulator. And by that, it will mean that it will also maybe have to come through the electricity subcommittee through a special meeting. But I have no other understanding and no other resolution of the regulator that puts the legal opinion to May and other times. But RSU can assist. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Pokola. Unfortunately, and RSU is here to actually defend themselves. But I mean, in the main, it became quite clear at the meeting that, because the question that was asked is who briefed council on these issues, and should they, and what information was provided to council, and it became clear that that process had not taken place. In which case, when it does take place, and perhaps right now the process, they may be collecting information. So it became quite clear that what we are looking at is May. But Mr. Ntanzi can respond. But before he does, Mr. Pokola.
Chairperson, I think I don't know about the part that you are asking about who briefs council. It is clear what the regulator said. He said the RSU assisted by LAS. And that's normally the way that it happens. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, it is that one is a governance matter which we can discuss in a closed meeting, but I can respond to that later. But Mr. Ntanzi, please, you've got a question from Mr. Pokola. Timing.
Chair, thanks. Yeah, I've assigned this work to Mr. Chogwe, and I see his hand is up. If he can assist the chair to respond, thanks.
Right, Mr. Mrati's hand was up first, and perhaps both of you can then assist. Can I hand over to both yourself, Mr. Mrati and Mr. Chokwe?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning and good morning, members. I wanted to highlight the position that Mr. Pokola has touched on, that the intention and the engagement that has taken place between us and the attorneys is that this process should not go beyond a period that would not be able to serve the matter before the ER of April. So he is correct that the intention is to have this matter finalized by April 2024, not to go to May 2024. The other dynamics in between there at play, the information that needed to be shared with the attorneys has been received and it has been shared. The only aspect that might be outstanding is issues of consultations and the selection of the senior counsel. Those are the only items that we need to be dealing with, but we intend to have that finalized no later than tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chok, you want to add?
Chairperson, thanks. Mr. Murati has taken the words out of my mouth, but I also agree with you, Chairperson, to say in the briefing note we said April, May, but as Murati has said, the intention is that we could move faster because we were worried about whether these consultations and all the important information that has to go to the attorneys and later to the senior counsel, we would have done them in April. But it's true that we intend to finalize this in April. But it's true that we have put April, May in our briefing note that served at the last ER in committee. Chairperson, thanks.
Okay, thank you. So clearly, it's quite clear that from the expectation by the ER chair is that this will serve at the ER of April, and therefore it should serve before the ELS before that, which will then provide further guidance in terms of the SC process. But I must admit, I don't know, because part of this is not just the senior counsel, but is also appointing of an economist. So I don't know whether, in terms of that, whether that your process includes that or not. Mr. Pukula?
Sorry, Chair, I missed the part. In fact, I missed the meeting. So I missed the part that requires an economist, because the points that were raised don't necessarily require an economist. But because I think even the decision of the regulator talks about senior counsel. But I may have missed it in the meeting that I didn't attend, but in the documentation we have here, there is no mention of an economist. Thank you, Chair.
Again, Mr. Pukula, I'll direct you to Appendix A, first bullet point, the appointment of a senior counsel with the assistance of an economist. And that was a major issue as well. But if in the refinement of what is going to be done, there is no need for an economist, it does make the process a whole lot simpler. Madam Kiza, you want to add?
Yes, sorry, Chair, to come like this. Chairperson, the attorneys are on record and they have been requested to also appoint an economist to assist the regulator. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, okay. But please note what the point that was raised by Mr. Pukula, that as far as he recalls, there was no mention of an economist in terms of the decision. It does bring all complex, a major number of complexities, the issue of an economist, and therefore it also is unlikely for us to actually meet even the May deadline in the event that we are to incorporate that. But please take that into account. It's your process, Mr. Ntanzi, so I'm assuming that it will be managed. However, members, if I can take Mr. Mkiza, you raised an issue about the link between that recommendation. Clearly, for us, there's work that needs to be done internally, and that work has been done, and that input will then be incorporated into that opinion. And quite clearly, there needs to be a special ELS before the end of April to allow for ELS to actually deliberate on the input from the SC, and that this matter will then serve before ER of the end of April. Will incorporate everything. But I see your hand is up. Two hands. Firstly, can I recognize you, Advocate Sitole?
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning, everyone. Chair, I think mine is just to also add something that will assist the process. May I request that Annexure A be really be written by RSU if it's not, because when I read it, I had picked up some points that are incorrect. If we can get that from RSU, I would appreciate it. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Advocate. I think it was written by RSU, but they can clarify that. Mr. Mkhize?
Chairperson, I understand and appreciate all the responses and the deliberations thus far. I propose that we send the matter back to follow the process that has been outlined. And if there are other issues, then we discuss it as a governance matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Noted, Mr. Mkhize. We note your recommendation. And the recommendation, I guess, matter is if there's going to be a special ELS sometime in April. Today is the 9th of April. But if there's going to be a special ELS, then this input would actually go in there as well as part of the input that will also be considered with the legal opinion from the SC. So with no further, but Mr. Ntanzi, am I correct that this Annexure A was actually authored by RSU?
It's correct, Chairperson.
Thank you. But with that, members, if we then go back to the recommendation and taking into account the advice that has been provided by RSU as well as the recommendation by Mr. Mkhize, that I'm not sure whether it's the correct wording to say that it be sent back, but rather that it be kept in abeyance. It's something that will then be considered in conjunction with the input from the senior council advisory process. So with that, members, would we be in agreement with that proposal that this input from the team be held in abeyance and will be considered in conjunction with the advice from council? I see your hand is up, Madam Mule. You want to guide differently, or maybe even assist me in framing the actual recommendation.
Yes, Chair. I would advise that the matter be withdrawn to be dealt with at the and the resolution indicate that the matter is withdrawn from this current agenda and will be dealt with in the agenda of the special meeting to be convened, rather than it's kept in abeyance, because then it's hanging forever, so to speak.
Okay, thank you. All right. Members, I'm not going to try to rephrase that. By show of hands, would we support the recommendation from RSU in terms of the recommendation? Thank you, Madam Spear. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Advocate Sitole. I support as well. Thank you, Mr. Pukula. Madam Massetti. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Massetti. So the matter is withdrawn and will serve at the special meeting that will be arranged. Thank you. We can step off that and go into agenda item number 9, the stakeholder engagement advocates. Oh, by the way, members, if there's anything in a closed meeting that any further deliberation that you may want to have on this item, we can accommodate those comments in a closed meeting. Thank you. Can we then go to agenda item number 9, Mr. Shozi?
Thanks, Chair. The report on stakeholder engagement and advocacy, which will be presented by Ms. Makubane. The report is here for noting. Over to you, Elvi.
Thanks, Mr. Shozi. Good morning, Chairperson and members, management and colleagues. The submission seeks to request the ELS to approve the report on the stakeholder engagement and advocacy initiatives that were undertaken during the course of 2023-24 financial year against the plan of the same year. I will take it as read. It's a fairly short report, and I'll just highlight probably 2 items. So under policy advocacy initiatives, these include our participation in the ERA Amendment Bill that is currently has been adopted by the National Assembly on the 14th of March, as well as our participation in the commentary to
to the IRP 2023 that is under development. And also just to highlight that on a continuous basis, there has been an engagement between ourselves and the DMRE just to better align between ourselves and them, and just to put systems in place to ensure this continuous collaboration, particularly in the current landscape of crisis. And the activities for this current financial year with regards to policy advocacy matters will be outlined in the 2024-25 financial year plan that is likely to serve in May. Under stakeholder engagement initiatives, just to highlight the webinar that we had on the EPDR on 23 November, as well as the cost of supply two-day webinar held on 11 and 12 September, which I believe were a great success. And of course, we do highlight in the report also some of our collaborations and partnerships with different international organizations, which we more often than not rope into some of our initiatives, especially the ones that are inclined to capacity building. So this is the NARUCS partnership, GIZ partnerships, and the DIA partnership. I will then take members to the recommendations on page, sorry, let me just go to it.
Page 8 of 19.
Page 8 of 19, and apologies, I think in the agenda we say for noting, but it is for approval. And I think we'll look into the delegation matrix just to word this particular piece of work correctly. We are recommending that the ELS approve the stakeholder engagement and advocacy report for the financial year 23-24. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ms. Makubane. Members, you've got the item before us. Or any questions, comments, additions, guidance, further guidance? Madam Spear.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the presenter. Just a small issue with regards to the ERA bill that was that has gone through the National Assembly in March. Do we have information whether it has been finally approved? Because to my understanding, the next process is the NCOP and then finally the president signing. Do we see it being done sooner, or have we got that info that it has been done following the process from the National Assembly? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam. Any further questions on this? If none, Madam Makubane, would you be able to assist?
Thank you. You're correct, Ms. Bia. It does have those processes to follow that you've outlined. So it is not yet finalized. We can inquire in terms of the timelines related with that. Those have not been communicated to us yet, unless maybe Mr. Murati has a view. But as far as I'm concerned, they haven't communicated the timelines with the rest of the process. Thanks, Chair.
Murati, care to add?
Thanks, Chair. The finalization of the ER amendment bill is still within the NCOP, and the process is unfolding. And with the closest, the ending of the Parliament, we do not see that process being completed for it to be assented by the president to be the law. So that process hasn't moved, and the department hasn't given any further information save for that update only. Thanks.
Thank you. May I just request that normally Parliament issues a program of action. If we can source the program of the NCOP and see whether it's been scheduled for a discussion, I think that may assist members. I haven't seen one, but because it needs to be included in the program. So the question is, have we seen the program? So I think to assist the members further, if we can source the program for the NCOP, that may assist. Thank you. With that, I'm not sure if there are any further questions. If none, members, the matter has been read in for the recommendation has been read in for the record by show of hands. Members, can we support that recommendation? It's an approval. It's for approval, as clarified.
By show of hands. Thank you, Madam Assetti. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Madam Smia. Thank you, Advocate Sithole, and thank you, Mr. Pokula. I support as well. We've got a full house, so if we can step off that matter, look at the last item for the open meeting. Mr. Pokula? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Mr. Mkhize? I'm not sure whether there maybe might be a system glitch because I see the hands coming up. All right, apologies for that. Can we then look at the last item for the open meeting? Mr. Shozi, back to you. Item number 10.
Thanks, Chair. As you have said, it's the last item on the consolidated report on the electricity generation industry compliance audit conducted in the fourth quarter of 2022-2024 financial year. The report is here for noting. It will be presented by Ms. Eva Matabele. Over to you, Ms. Matabele.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members and colleagues. The purpose of the submission is to request the Electricity Subcommittee to note the report on the finding of the electricity generation industry compliance audit conducted in the fourth quarter and approve the posting of the report on the NESA website after clearing the confidential matters with the licensee. The Electricity Subcommittee is delegated to make a decision on this matter as per clause 3.1 of the delegation matrix. I would like to indicate that 4 licensees were audited in the fourth quarter as per the audit plan that was approved in April 2023, and the list of the 4 licensees is depicted in page 3, table 2 of the submission. Chair, I would like to highlight that out of the 4 licensees that were audited, 1 licensee did not fully comply to the RPP grid code due to pending compliance confirmation letter for the 6-yearly routine test from the system operator, and it is imperative to note the progress in the implementation of the corrective action plan for the particular licensee. I therefore request the Electricity Subcommittee to note the consolidated report attached as Appendix A and to approve the posting of the consolidated report for the fourth quarter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Matabele. Members, any comments, questions, enhancements? See no hands. All right, with that, can I then take you, members with no hands, can I then take you to the recommendation, which is on page 5 of 22, as read, that is recommended that the Electricity Subcommittee notes the consolidated report on the electricity generation industry compliance audits conducted in the fourth quarter of the financial year 23-24, and also then to approve the posting. I guess that is a consequence that will naturally happen, but posting of the report on the NESA website after clearing confidentiality matters with licenses. That's a natural outcome. So in fact, we are asked basically to just approve to note the report. By show of hands, members, if we can approve the recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Pokora. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Madam Spear. Thank you, Advocate Sithole. Thank you, Madam Assetti. You've got your decision. Mr. Shozi, that brings us to the end of the open part of the meeting. I'd like to thank the members of the public that may have been following us and apologize for any glitches that may have occurred. We are only human, and sometimes mistakes do happen, and we hopefully we didn't offend anybody. If we did, we apologize in advance. It was not intended. We then like to request, Nevo, if we can maybe just close, if we can then